Hello everybody. I hope you're okay, and let me make sure that I don't have my my sound on. Hi Francis, Sharon, Cindy. Excuse me. So what I did today is I said I was going to have some stuff already prepared ahead of time so we can kind of breeze through the whole thing. Hi Kathy. It would be how to make snowflake pendant, and I'm actually going to show you pretty much a two-in-one thing, but the second part is the optional, and you can skip the first part and do just the second part, the optional. I'll show you just how to do a snowflake pendant two ways without using canes. Hi Ellen. Hi Christy. So first of all, you need some white pearl, and I honestly recommend to use a texture sponge for this because it gives more the snow effect than other textures. If you don't have a snow sponge, a sponge texture, I don't know, use something like this repeatedly over it, even if this is a little bit too geometrical, or use like a very strong actually you can use one of those textures I showed you how to make to do matrices for for turquoises, but the best way to do it is with a texture sponge. Hi Jeannie, Catherine, Laos, June, and Colleen. So first of all, I have my white pearl excuse me, I don't know what's going on the thickest setting, and I'm going to put it on my working tile and then grab the texture sponge, and I'm going to go several times because I don't want to get just a fine one single design. I want to get a lot of imprints of the sponge. And see how it looks all like that. And then I'm going to do a little bit of shaving for a mica shift, and that way the moment after it is nicely burnished and baked and sanded, it will give some super nice effects. And you will see, because as I said, I already have some pieces made in the specific steps. So all you have to do is to gently, that one I shaved one a little bit too much, but don't shave too much, just overall. I can get my face too close to it because I'm losing the microphone if I do. Then very important, after you do this, it is super important that you burnish to make everything even. Not that I know of, Cindy, unfortunately, and I don't know when Donna Cato is, and if she's going to bring any in the near future. But you can use one of those loofah sponges, only that you'll have to press like this. You know, those meshes, you have to press a lot. Then place your wax paper with the shiny facing the clay, and then don't start rolling, because if you start rolling, you start changing the position of the mica particles. All you need to do is rubbing, and And if you have one of these small acrylic blocks, you can use that for rubbing. Sorry, I'm moving the whole table. And do as good as you can. The rest will come off when you're sanding after it is baked. So I got this done, and I will, why did I get a second blade? I have no idea. I will refocus the camera so you can see from close up how it looks. Give me just a second, because especially when you manage to sand it and buff it or put varnish on it, but you do have to sand every time you do a mica shift. Your best bet is to sand. See, you will have all these nice things that will make the whole thing look like fresh snow. Okay, I said okay. Okay, then my next thing, and I am showing you this. Unfortunately, I gave away most of my stamps, including some stamps that I had with snowflakes. But whatever snowflake stamp you have, hi Lena, hi Gail, whatever snowflake stamps you have, these I actually got at Goodwill, and I managed to find them. They are some Martha Stewart things, but you can do, because I know that I had from BB Crafts, I had some snowflake stamps, and I had a couple more that I got on clearance at Hobby Lobby. So whichever snowflake stamp you have, and then just go ahead and place it here. And make sure that you're all, I have some issues with pressing with my hands in this position. It's kind of hard. And yes, you want to do this before you put it on a baking blank, especially because you might get this and you want to get rid of it. Okay, then get it back off the tile. And your best bet is to use one of those steel soaps. And do a first cut. Make sure that you have the stamp about, you need to leave at least 1/3 of the pendant without the stamp. And your stamp has to be fairly deep. And then place it on the steel soap. If you don't, you can use a light bulb or a bowl, but the whole idea is that you have to make it really, really, really nice, and make sure that you don't trap any kind of air bubbles between the clay and the base. You can first put it on this and then apply the stamp. That is entirely up to you. Like, you can have the piece already cut and placed on the base, but it depends on you and your hands. How good are your hands? You can apply the stamp after you have put it on the base. Only that in that case you will have to bring again the cutter to make sure that you have still your oval color, oval shape. And then of course you need to bake it. Don't worry too much about the edges not being given, because I'll show you here in a minute how to sand it. But as you can see, it already looks pretty. Now, of course, you could do something else at this point. You could put some, let's say, gold or light blue mica powder. And let me show you how that would look, because I won't need this one anymore. And I would suggest that in this case, unless you're coming on top of it with varnish, I would suggest that in this case you use perfect pearls. So you can go ahead and place some mica powder in here. And yes, I got two colors. I'm going to make a little bit of a gradient with this. Or of course you can cover this with resin. You can make it straight and cover it with resin. It's going to look pretty too. And here nicely do a little bit of blending between the two micas. And then grab your packing tape. I honestly find that the packing tape works the best for this. And of course it got stuck on another something. Packing tape works the best for this because it's got the best glue. And then go over it and remove all the mica powder that's in on the raised areas. You're going to have to do this 2 or 3 times with the packing tape. Of course, you can use other colors. I mean, you can use green and blue. White will not look that prominent on the pearl, so I'd rather not use white pearl. I think that Lisa Pavelka was the first one who figured this thing out. I'm not sure though. Only in this one you'll have to make sure that all your piece is very even, because see here I didn't do it even because I was going to do the clay inlay. Hi Donna, it's okay. Just make sure that you remove all the mica powder that is on the raised areas. And you can see already how pretty it looks. You can already make a pendant like this, and as I said, you can just put some varnish on it. You can leave it like this if you do it with perfect pearls, or you can make it on a straight baking base and then cover it with resin. Now the clay inlay, and let me find my piece because it should be here. There we go. Now the clay inlay, I have here a piece that is already baked. It's got the stamp on. You can see that now that it's baked, it's got the snow effect way more prominent as effect. And I'm going to fill it. What I'm going to use is a little bit of white pearl, in which I put just a grain of ultramarine. And then you need to make it very soft, but make it soft with bacon bond. And there's a reason. If you don't have bacon bond, of course, use liquid clay, but it's better to soften it up with bacon bond. And you'll see in a second why. I bet you've never heard about softening clay with bacon bond. So soften it really good until it's nice and stretchy. See how now it's very stretchy. And then let me grab my eyeglasses. Then you're going to start filling these little, hi Laura, and I'm going to simply use, and remember, because this is with white pearl, it's going to mica shift as well, but you do exactly like if you were going to put frosting on a cake. And make sure that you come all the way to the end in covering all the recesses. You might have to come to get over it twice, because your next move is to remove most of the extra clay. And the first thing that I would do though is to get a cosmetic sponge and press real hard. Why cosmetic sponge? Because the clay that's inside will not stick to it and you won't be lifting it. And just press really good. And by the way, whenever you use a cosmetic sponge or on pearl clay or metallic clay, I'll show you what happens. It just makes it, so you can make the snow effect also like this. Not on this specific, but you can get a very nice snow effect as well. See what happens? It makes it all nice and glittery and scintillating. Okay, let's get back to... Okay, then I'm going to get the rigid blade and I'm going to very gently start shaving off, like for a satin slice. But you don't have to shave off everything, just the most prominent extra clay, because you don't want to by mistake get in and gouge what is in the, and I'll show you what happens. I'm going to do that on purpose so I can show you how to fix it. Because see, if you go too deep, you'll have areas where you practically can gouge inside the recess where only the blue clay is. So if that happens, by any means, just simply go back and cover it up again. It doesn't take long to get the hold of it, and as long as you don't have a lot of extra, see, don't do like this. If you do it too fast near the, if you press too hard near the stamped area, you're going to pull the clay out of the recesses. So simply shave off only, like, see where I have these two lines, it's obvious that I have a lot of extra clay. If at any time you feel that the blade stops in something, that means that you're ready to get into a stamp recess. And then your last thing would be get a little bit of alcohol just to make sure that all your inlay is spread all over the way it's supposed to be. and press, press, press. And now see, I can see that I did not cover everything here, so I'm going to wait for this to evaporate properly, and then I'm going to get another, I can actually help it a bit, and I'm going to take another little piece here. See how it's right here. I didn't cover it properly. You shouldn't be feeling any recesses or anything once you go away over it with the alcohol, because remember, alcohol very kind of slightly dissolves the polymer clay, and that allows you to have a very nice and even and smooth area. Now for the next step, you'll have to wait for me for a couple minutes, because I need to bring my my sanding wand. This is how it looks once it is fully baked. And let me bring my sanding wand and my water, because that's why I didn't want to spill or anything. I'll be right back. Okay, I need to plug it in. Alright, so first of all, I'm going to get a fairly low, and most likely I'm gonna go with the 240 grit, because I don't want to have to spend a lot of time. Let me make sure that this is, yes, it's well proportioned. I'm gonna go with the 240 just to remove all the extra clay, and I'm not gonna use it for a long time. And you see, I didn't remove it from the baking blank yet. And now I'm going to move to 400. Oh, thank you. Okay, let me find my 400. There we go. And now I can go all the way into until I see the snowflakes. Actually, I still have plenty to go. I might use one more swipe of 240. There's still quite a bit of clay there. Yeah, you probably need to, unless you reload the page, you won't see the latest. Okay, now I can start going with 400. And see how the snowflakes start coming to the surface. And everything looks very icy and floaty. And from this point you have to make sure that you don't sand too much. Of course, if you want to make your snowflakes even more to attention, just make your white pearl darker. I personally like them a little bit lighter because they look more ethereal. Okay, now I can move to 600. Oops. And do a few passes with 600 to remove any scratches from the 400. Generally, up to 400 you are shaping, and once you move past 400 you are removing the scratches from the previous lower grids. No, it's no vibration. Why it looks like it's moving more, it's because the pad is not perfectly the same size as the pad on the wand. It doesn't vibrate like a polycast. And 600 and up to 100, even 1200, it will still remove some clay. So you must make sure that you don't remove too much clay with your 240 and 400. Okay, now I move to 800. Okay, where's my 800? I must have missed my 800. No, there it is. I thought that I had all the, because I had all the set ready. One thing I'm not going to do, I'm not going to buff it because it's too much of a pain to get the buffer here. As I said, I have to do a live one to show exactly how to shape, how to find sand and how to buff, but I'm going to do it from the kitchen and I'm going to use the laptop. I didn't get to that point yet. And if I'm going to varnish it, I can stop at 800. Now we need to do the edges, and with the edges I'm only going to do to 400. But before I do that, because when it's wet you can see the full effect like if it were buffed, I'm going to change the focusing. No, it's not. You have to get it, and that's why I prefer to do this, because I can go against it. See how pretty it looks? It looks like it's the snowflakes float over the snow. Okay. Now I'm gonna go back to 240, and this time I'm going to take it off the soap. And that's why I told you don't worry too much about the edges. You can see they are fairly ragged. And now the 400. You see how now it is all nice and perfectly smooth and even. And I'm going to give it just an idea of a bevel. See, it's nice and smooth all over. I'm going to go one more time over the whole thing with the 400. And then I'm going to give it just a pinch of a bevel, and that I going at a 45 degrees angle. And then I'm going to use directly the 800. Again, just for the bevel. And now directly a 1000 just to refine the bevel. And this time I'm going to move the sand differently. You can find it in my Amazon influencer store. It's a pedicure wand. You can find everything you need, and then I have an article on my website and on my blog about it. Okay, oh, it's in here. So this time I'm going to go like this to refine the bevel. Okay. And this was all of it. Yeah, if you look on my channel in the video tab, scroll down until you find there's a video called "The Solution to Sanding." Okay, now I'm going to refocus the camera this time so you can see the edge. It's not going to look that pretty anymore because it's not shiny anymore. And at this point, as I said, you can buff it and just leave it as is, or you can wait, put an embossing stamp on it, and then varnish. Hold on, let me refocus for a minute. See how the edge now is without blemish, and including on the inside, and it has a very, very delicate bevel. You can insist on a larger bevel, of course, but this one, not being a very thick piece, I just made a very, very delicate one. All right, let me get this out of here because I don't want to topple anything. And I shall be right back to continue with the whole thing. Oops, there's more. Okay. Then this is optional. Metal soap. This is how you call it. You can find it in baking blanks in my Amazon influencer store. The link is in the video description. Okay. Next, you can, so this is completely optional, and I don't really have a lot of good room here, but I'm still going to try and show you how to do it. I don't even know if I want to use one of these or something else. I'm gonna use one of these. So you need clear embossing ink, and make sure that your stamp is well and nice soaked. And then apply it on your, as I said, I'm not sure if I did a good thing, because I can barely see in these conditions. You can leave it just as is, but you can use this. And my way of using and it works better, Robbie. My way of applying embossing powder, you probably have seen people using a sheet of paper and then pouring the stuff back in. I prefer to keep these, yes, these are hummus pots. I prefer to keep my embossing powder in here, and then I don't have I normally use a teaspoon. No, let me use something else here, because I don't want to have to go to the bathroom again, to the kitchen again. I might have shifted the stamp, honestly. Yeah, I did a mess. It's not a lot of a snowflake now, is it? I said before that I wasn't sure I was going to do a good job. Anyway, we can do something on top of it. But this is how you do the embossing. So I completely messed up on this one, and I cannot do it again because I don't have another piece. So we're gonna go with the messed up snowflake. So after you do this, you grab your heat gun and let it first, and I'm going to have to move the camera because I don't want to risk it to be damaged. Okay, first heat your lamp a little bit, and then set it on low first, and then switch to high. Remember that in my channel description it says there might be days in which I can show you how it's supposed to be done, but I might not be able to do it by myself that day. Okay, so this is how the embossing powder, and you should just see a gold snowflake here. Now, how do you do the back? You can do two things. Of course, you can place a bezel if you want. You can use this kind of stuff to place in a blank tray, or how do you connect it here? You can get a, let me see if I have enough left. of the white pearl. I might not, but I should have. Oh goodness. I guess I don't. Hold on, let me mix the blue. Oh yeah, I do. It's right here. Never mind. Okay, so first of all, you can put whatever texture you want on it. And let me get the texture, whatever. Just whatever texture. And then place some bacon bond on the back. And your thing is that you can use this in two ways. And I'll show you also how to make its own thing. But your best bet to leave it nice and actually no, your best bet to leave it nice and not very clumsy finish looking is, give me just a second to grab stuff, as I think I still have some. No, I don't. No, I don't. I only have stuff for earrings. Just a second. Okay, you can use either one jump ring Unfortunately, I am out of delicate spoon bales, so I'll show you in theory how to do this. But you need a spoon bale that's smaller than what I have here. I need to buy some smaller ones. I don't use a lot spoon bales, that's why I'm not always up to par with them. But your your easiest way to do this, my glasses here. So remember, I put bacon bond under this. Bye, Lena. And then start placing from one end if you want, like this, but then go from the middle towards the edges. And once again, for people who ask why I don't leave fingerprints, is because I file most of my fingerprint, not to the point of having no fingerprints whatsoever. So if I need to get fingerprinted, I still can get fingerprinted, but enough to not leave. As you can see, I don't leave fingerprints on my stuff. So here you can go directly with cutting, but my most preferred method is to simply rub against the cooked clay, because the raw clay separates by itself. And here you can do some more finesse trim in. And then as usual, to get, as I always do, to get better sides, just a little bit of alcohol. And of course to this you can actually add a bezel. For beginners, a bezel is something that you put around the cabochon or a piece. A bevel is the, see, like this, when the edge is beveled. So we did a bevel on the piece, but we are going to put a bezel here. Let me grab this and make a little bezel. And again, with the bezel, with the straight bezel, you don't have to worry because you can make it look perfect when sanding. So let me get this through the pasta machine real quick. Now, whenever you do something with a pearlescent or a metallic, your biggest enemy will be the mica shift. Because even if we love mica shift, we don't like mica shift lines when we are putting something together. So first of all, let me get this one more time through the machine. So I can have a full top proper. And now I have enough length. Now if you're going to ask me where I got this awesome long rigid blade that's absolutely perfect, I got it from Tiny Pandora. It's part of one of her kits, and it's fabulous. Okay, so it's not perfect cut. Now, how big do I want it? I don't want it very big. So first of all, I'm going to give it a cut at a 45-degree angle. And then I'm going to give it a cut about this. Okay, and this is my big deal. I have some of my blades here. Okay, and now I'm going to put some more bacon bond, this time on the edge, just in case you want to put a bezel. And I'm not gonna put this much. This one is way too much to use. So I'm going to just see how I got it on my finger. And even if you put a bezel, you still need your edge to be perfectly straight and nice and even, because otherwise your bezel will look like crap. And at this point, normally I would put this directly on the wax paper I'm going to bake it on, but for showing purposes. So this would be my bottom. And see how I have them like this here? I'm going to cut straight. Remove the excess. I didn't cut very straight. Normally when you cut perfectly straight, I do this when the piece is towards me, but it would be hard to show you if it would be like that. I cannot get it on the camera properly. And then you get them perfectly matching in edge here. And there you go. Let me get this closer and refocus so you can see. Simple edging. See? And edge here. You can go even more, even with a little bit of alcohol to make this perfect here. And then I didn't cut very well here, but you know, you need to cut all the way through. I didn't. I'm not having that good of a day because for some reason, even if we don't expect any rain or snow, nevertheless the barometer is low, and whenever the barometer is low it messes me up pain wise. Anyway, this is supposed to be cut perfectly like on this side, but you get the idea. Okay, and then how are we going to do the bail on it? Is it good? It's good. Normally before moving this, let it be for like 5 minutes because the bacon bond will just get viscous and hard, and it will be even hard to remove whatever you have put there. But to place the bail, and honestly I would suggest that you get this through the machine again until you get a nice mica sheen going on. You can use a small round cutter, or you can use simply a square. Don't cover it when you have a backing very thin. Don't use just the backing to cover the bail part. You want to give it a larger. Why I did get a double coil, I have no idea, but place your jump ring about half over, and you can actually place the bail after you have baked the whole thing. And then place the round or square little thing here. And what I like to do to make it look more professional, it's very simple to make it look just pretty, you know, without a lot of effort. And you can do this, and I'm gonna do it with a toothpick just to show you that you don't have to have a lot of tools and stuff to do this. I made 3 slits. And then gently get them together. See how now it looks pretty and professional, and you don't have to worry about the edges not looking good or anything. It looks pretty and professional. And then all you have to do is to just hang it on something, on another jump ring and on a chain and all that. And obviously if you put in a jump bail, this one is way too big. You do the exact same thing. You just place it here and then cover it with clay, enough clay to get over the edges, but you need one that would be about half the size of this one. I just don't have large ones, as I said. So remember, this has to be made much better when you put the stamp on. Don't start doing like this like I did, but as I said, my hands are hurting and I have issues. But anyway, I hope you liked it, and this is especially pretty. What I suggest, do not, you can use a little bit of ultramarine, you can use just a droplet, but you have to put just a little bit of color. Don't put too much color in the white pearl. You can use, of course, not pink or red, because snowflakes don't look pretty with pink or red, but you can use this exact design. For example, use, instead of white, put a little bit of gold, or even better, cadmium yellow, to make this yellow. Just giving you an example. And then use a flower stamp instead of a snowflake stamp, and then use some, it doesn't matter if you use the magenta or the sunset pearl, but put a little bit of pomegranate in it to make it a little bit redder, and then use it like that. Or you can use a slight blue like this one for a base, and then a darker blue or whatever other color you want, purple, on with a butterfly stamp. This type of technique can work beautifully with all kinds of stamps, and you can see that you get the effect of floating. And as I said, this is just optional. You can do this optional. Thank you, Shannon. Okay, I guess I am done here for today, and I'm going to keep, today is my day off, the afternoon off. I'm not going to even try to work on anything. I had a very bad night. I didn't sleep because of pain. So I'm going to just rest today. Okay? And look forward for next week, because I have a few tutorials that I'm almost done with, and I need to just post. I still need to finish editing and posting. So I shall see you next Sunday. I don't think I'll have time until, because I still have one doctor appointment this coming week and 2 doctor's appointments next week. So I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do any other separate live before the end of the year. It's gonna be for after the end of the year with everything, you know, the sanding and the buffing and all that. Okay, thank you so much, and I shall talk to you next Sunday. And remember, follow Facebook, because sometimes from time to time I just jump for a few minutes on a live video just to show you things. It's much easier for me to go on Facebook Live than YouTube Live, because YouTube's got all kinds of requirements. Facebook, at least for now, doesn't. Thank you so much for being here, and don't forget to like, and if it's the first time you got here, subscribe to my channel. Have a wonderful